are still multiplying with decimals. And remember, we are not going to line the decimals up. We are going to figure out where the decimal goes once we get to the answer. So I'll just start on number 1, and I'll do a couple of these, and then I'll do some on the back, and then you can do on your own. So on number 1, this is page 160. Let me make sure I'm on the right page. This is 169. Yeah, page 169. Okay. So the very first problem is 0.057 times 10, and I'm going to let my 0 hang off on that 10. So I'm going to bring my 0 straight down, and I'm going to say 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 0 is 0. Now I'm going to find my decimal, I'm going to darken it. I'm going to say to the right, to the right, to the right, and since that was 3 places to the right, when I get to my answer, I'm going to say to the left, to the left, to the left, and then I'm going to clean up my answer. I really don't need this, and I really don't need these, which leaves my answer 0.57. Now I'll do the second part, 0.057 times 100. And look, I let my 2 zeros hang off this time, so I'm going to drop those 2 zeros. I'm going to say 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 0 is 0, and 1 times 0 is 0. I'm going to find my decimal. I'm going to say to the right, to the right, to the right, and then I'm going to come in to the left, to the left, to the left, and I'm going to drop my decimal right there. I'm going to get rid of these zeros, I'm going to get rid of these zeros, and that's going to leave my answer at 5.7. I think I'm going to let you do the last one of that, and then I'm going to pick some from down here to do. Let's see. Maybe number 5, since there's a decimal in both numbers. So 7.25 times 0.1. Now, I want to point this out. There's 3 digits here. There's 2 digits here. So I'm going to put my 0.1 right here under the 2.5. So 0.1 goes right there. I did not line up my decimals. That's a big no-no. Do not line up your decimals. If they get lined up, it's just because you got lucky. Don't do it on purpose. So now we're going to multiply times 1. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 7 is 7. If you choose to multiply 0 times 5, you're going to get 0. 0 times 2, actually you're going to have a placeholder 0 here. That's going to get you a 0. That's going to get you a 0. That's going to get you a 0. And there would just be a whole line of zeros, so I'm choosing not to do that. Now, I got to find where my decimal belongs. Here's your decimal in your problem, to the right, to the right. Here's another decimal in your problem, to the right. So that was 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So in your answer, you're going to go to the left, to the left, to the left, and drop your decimal right there. So your answer to number 5 is 0.725. Let's see, number 13. 5.001 times 10 to the first power would just be a 1 with 1 0. 10 to the first power is 10. 10 to the second power is 100. 10 to the fourth power would be a 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. That would be 10,000. But we're on number 13. 5.001 times 10. So I'm just going to drop that 0 straight down. I'm going to say 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 5 is 5. I'm going to find where my decimal is in my problem, and I'm going to say to the right, to the right, to the right. That was 1, 2, 3 times. Then I'm gonna say to the left, to the left, to the left, and I'm gonna drop my 0 right there. Now, I need this 0, don't get rid of this one, but you can get rid of this one. So your answer is 50.01. I'll do one more problem on the front and then we'll turn to the back. How about number 7? 17.6 times 0.01. Look, there's 1, 2, 3 digits, 1, 2, 3 digits. So they're literally gonna stack right on top of each other. And I did not put my decimal, or excuse me, I did not line up my decimal. I lined up my digits, not my decimal. So 1 times 6 would get me 6, 1 times 7 would get me 7, and 1 times 1 would get me 1. I'm going to find my decimal on the top plate. On the top number would be to the right. I'm going to find my decimal on the bottom. To the right, that is 1, 2, 3 places. 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So your answer is 0.176. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do on the front. Now let's turn to the back. Number 17, Jennifer planted a tree that was 0.17 of a meter tall. After 10 years, the tree was, 100 times as tall as when she planted it. This is when she planted it. After 10 years, it grew 100 times that. What is the height of the tree after 10 years? So on number 17, you're gonna do 0.17 times 100 because it's 100 times that. 0, 0. 1 times 7 would get you 7. 1 times 1 would get you 1. 1 times 0 would get you 0. Here's your decimal in your problem. So you would say to the right, that's 2 places. So in your answer, you would say to the left, 2 places. And that looks really weird. Technically, you don't need these zeros or the decimal, and you don't need the 0 before. So your answer, look, it's in meters. So it would be 17 meters, and you abbreviate meters with a little bitty m. Number 18. Marco and Susie each multiplied 0.721 times 10 to the second power. That's the first thing we need to figure out, is 10 to the second power is actually 100. So they each multiplied this number, so let's do that too. So 0.721 times 100, and let your 0 hang off. It says Marco got this for his product, just means answer. Susie got that for her product. It's wanting you to know which one was correct. Well, let's see. I'm going to drop those 2 zeros. 1 times 1 gets me 1. 1 times 2 gets me 2. 1 times 7 gets me 7. 1 times 0 gets me 0. I'm finding my decimal, and I'm going to say to the right, that's 3 places to the right. So in my answer, I'm going to say to the left, and I'm going to drop my answer. I don't need these zeros, I'm going to drop my decimal, not my answer. I don't need this 0, I don't need these zeros. So really, my final answer is 72.1. Marco got 7.21, Susie got 72.1, so she's the correct answer, Susie. How do I know? Well, I guess I know because I worked it out correctly. You know what? What did Marco do? How is he so different from Susie? His numbers are 721, her numbers are 721, but look where his decimal is, and look where her decimal is. So that's what I'm going to put. He put his decimal in the wrong place. He put his decimal in the wrong place. That's how we know Susie was right, because Marco put his decimal in the wrong place. Number 19. The table shows the distance a small motor scooter can travel using 1 gallon of gasoline. Complete the table to find the number of miles the scooter can travel for other amounts of gasoline. So it took me a while to figure out this chart, but then I realized 1 gallon of gasoline went 118 miles. So how do you go from 1 to 118? You multiply times 118. So what they're wanting you to do is multiply this times 118 and this times 118. So if you'll multiply that, and here's how I would write it if I were you. I would write 118 times 0.1. That'll get you that answer. Then 118 times 10 will get you that answer. So if you need to pause my video right now and work that out, that's fine. I'm gonna go on though. Number 20. Give an example of two numbers, that's important, that both have 6 digits. So I need a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the greater number is determined by the, what does this say right here? Hundreds place. Well, now let's think about this. Maybe you need to draw this on your scrap paper. I think you should. Ones, tens, hundreds. Here's your ones. Here's your tens. Here's your hundreds. We're not talking about decimals on this. We're talking about whole numbers. So, and here's the hundreds place. This is the hundreds, and this is the hundreds. So every one of these other numbers can be the exact same number, but this has to be bigger. So I don't care what you put. I mean, you could put 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. I just went backwards. But whatever you do down here, you can have 9, 8, 7 here, but that cannot be 6 because this one has to be greater than this. So this would have to be a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1 right there. And I don't care what you put, but the greater number had to be determined by the hundreds place, which is right there. Number 21, a store has a contest to guess the mass of about 10,000 peanuts. Mass just means weight. So we're gonna see how many 2,000 peanuts weigh. If a peanut, that means one peanut. If one peanut has a mass of about this much, what would be a reasonable guess for the mass of 10,000 peanuts? So if one peanut is 0.45, I need 10,000 of those. So your problem is going to be 0.45 times 10,000. And the reason why it says reasonable is because not every peanut weighs the same amount. Some peanuts are bigger, some peanuts are smaller. They're saying like an average peanut weighs that. So that's why they're saying it's not an exact answer because not every peanut weighs the exact same amount. So if you'll work that out, that'll be your answer for 10,000 peanuts. Number 22 and 23. It's a little bit different than what we did on the others because it's choose all equations. So that means there's more than one answer. But look, the ones that aren't true, you're finding the false answers. Same deal in this. Choose all equations that are not true. And this is hard for me because I have to like rethink it in my head. So if it's not true, then I am putting an X there. So I'll do the first couple for you. 360, like that doesn't have a decimal in it, times 10 to the third power. 10 to the third power would be a 1 with 3 zeros. So I'm going to multiply that times 1,000. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 zeros just drop down. Now I'm going to multiply 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 3 is 3. And like there's no decimals, so I don't have to worry about putting decimals in my answer. It's just the old-fashioned answer. So I got 360,000. Is that 360,000? No, that's 36,000. So I'm picking that because remember it wants the false answers, not the true answers. That's the only reason why I'm putting an X there. Next, 0.36 times 100, and I'm letting my 0 hang off, my 2 zeros hang off because I'm multiplying times 100. So I'm gonna bring those 2 zeros straight down, and I'm gonna say 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 0 is 0. But I do have a decimal this time, so I gotta deal with that. I'm gonna find my decimal and I'm gonna say to the right, and then in my answer I'm gonna say to the left, and I'm gonna drop my decimal right there. I can get rid of these zeros, I can get rid of this 0, and that's my final answer, 36. Does that say 36? No. That's why I'm picking it, because it's not the right answer. So put squiggly line, I'm putting squiggly lines right there so you know you have to go back and finish these in just a minute, okay? And if you need to push pause on my video, that's perfectly fine. But I'm moving on to 23. And once again, I'm picking what's not true. Not what is true, what is not true. So 0.42 times 0.1. Now look, this has 1, 2, 3 digits. This has 2 digits in it. So that means my 0.1 is going to go right there because it's got 2 digits in it. Now I'm multiplying times 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 0 is 0. I don't think I'm going to deal with this 0 because it would just be a whole line of zeros right there. So I'm going to find my decimal. And I'm going to say to the right, and then I'm going to find this decimal, and I'm going to say to the right. That's 3 places to the right. So then I'm going to come in to the left, and look what I got, 0.042. 0.042, that is correct. Just because it has a 0 in front, that's no big deal. As long as you've got a 0.042, that is correct. So do not put an X there. Because it is true. We only want the things that aren't true. Number 40, or the next one, 42 times 0.01. Well, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 4 is 4, and that's it. And I don't want to mess with these zeros because I'll have a whole line of zeros. So I've got a decimal point right here, and I see to the right. That means I come in my answer to the left. So I see 0.42. 0.42. Uh-oh, that is that. I mean, I can put this 0 in front of it. That's the same thing. So don't mark it because that is true. I'm only marking the things that are not true. So I'm putting squiggly lines right there so you know that you have to finish those 3. So this is page 169 and page 170. 169 and page 170. Let me look down and make sure that's right. Oh, right there, 170. So that's what you need to do.